Hi guys and welcome back to the channel. Today we're going to see if we can fit some skylights in the roof of our project BedBug. So many moons ago when Volkswagen created the split screen camper, they also did a model called a Samba, and that had skylight windows fitted in the roof. And what my customer wants? Well, he wants these skylight windows also fitted in the roof of our truck. And to make the job a little bit easier, he has actually supplied some panels. This panel here is actually the inside of a roof panel from a Samba bus, and these ones here are the exterior panels. So you would have thought it'd be a pretty easy job. You just cut a hole in the roof and you weld the panel in, but unfortunately, well, this is going to be a little bit tricky. So the first problem is the shape of the roof. On the Beetle here, you can see that we've got a rounded section of the roof here. But the section at the front, well, it's a different shape. But not only that, the roof itself has been badly beaten, and there's supposed to be a pressing line that runs along here. That's been completely lost. But saying that, that will work in our favour. But the biggest problem is actually this shape. And if I was just to offer this panel up here, you can see that that shape is totally different. And at the front, well, it's worse. And not only that, the roof has a curve going downwards, and you can see this panel is flat. But if I offer it up like that, well, yeah, well, the roof isn't flat, is it? So there's a whole ton of problems with fitting these panels in the roof, but it doesn't stop there. We might as well add one more to the mix, and that's the actual roof shape. This side here and this side here are actually different. They're not quite symmetrical. So the other problem is trying to visualize what it's actually going to look like once it's done. And there's so many issues with it. I mean, the roof kind of naturally curves downwards in front of the door, so I don't even know where the glass is going to sit, whether it should be straight or slightly angled towards the front of the door. So to make things a little bit easier for me, I did template a little section like this so I could offer it up onto the roof to kind of put it into a position that I'd be happy with. And then after I've done that, I cut a larger section of cardboard out. It's actually the same size as the recess that's in the back of the panel. And this will be the size of the hole I'd be cutting into the roof to then offer the panel into position. And then what I've done is I've just placed that template on the roof, and I've marked it into a position where I think it's going to look best. As I said, this roof here starts curving round here, so I really need to keep this panel as far away from this curve as possible. And the reason why I need to fit this panel as flat as possible without distorting the shape of this surround is the glass. Although with glass you do have quite a thick rubber and there is a little bit of wiggle room, this particular model has glass like this, and it's bent. It actually has a curve in the glass, which does look pretty cool because it does follow the contours of the panel, but it does mean that changing the window frame at this point could cause all sorts of problems when fitting the glass. So when doing these kind of car builds, you will be faced with lots of problems like this, where you're not entirely sure whether something is going to fit or not. And you can spend way too long going round in circles thinking about it and not actually getting any work done. But for me, the answer is simple. And so if I had to fit a panel like this and I'm not entirely sure if it's going to fit or not, what I tend to do is, well, I tend to just cut out that area, offer it into place, and worry about the consequences later. And while I'm doing the panel at the top, another thing I need to consider is what's going on the inside of the car. You can see here there's a large section of this panel missing where it looks like somebody has crudely just chopped it out with a gas axe. What I'd like to do though is use the inside of the panel, like this section here, to maybe mount behind that skylight panel and somehow stitch it in across here. I mean, this could look pretty cool because not only would he have the skylight here, can also trim this section in the middle between the skylights. So that's the hole cut out, and what I can do is just offer the panel into position. And how does it fit? Well, it's bad. But we already knew that that was going to be a problem. You can see there's a whopping great gap because of the shape of the roof, and the shape of this panel are totally different. So what I need to do at this point is make sure I don't distort this frame on the inside. But to make the panel meet the roof, or the roof to meet the panel, I'm going to have to put some incisions in this panel here, just so I can form it to, well, make a roof shape. And also at this point, what I'm going to do is just remove a bit of material at the top there and this return edge here. So what I've done on this panel is I've just made some incisions. You can see how they kind of fan out, also known as pie cuts. And what I can do there is it's a lot easier to manipulate this panel into the right shape with these cuts, and then I can trim it and weld it and do whatever I want with it. And also what I've done regarding these cuts, I haven't gone all the way to the edge of the frame. I've left about 10 mils worth of meat around the edge here. This is so that when I fold these panel bits down like this, it won't actually affect this area here. So I've clamped this panel into position, and where I've done these incisions, you can see what I'm talking about. I can actually move these sections of the panel quite easily down to meet the roof. But saying that, doing so, if I was just to push these down and weld them, I'd end up with a kind of misshape here, like a bubble. So what I want to do is I want to make incisions in the roof section and bring the roof up ever so slightly to meet this panel. And if you're doing something like this, I mean, obviously, if you were to weld them down, you could always make this section out of filler. But what I'd like to do is put less filler than I took off into this car. And this roof was absolutely made of filler. So if I can get away with less filler work, that'd be great. So I've made some incisions in the roof here and at the back, and now you can see that these sections here can easily be manipulated, which means that hopefully I can get a better job of getting this section of the roof to meet the panel that's going over the top. So what I've done is just mark and cut this area slightly larger, and I've just ran the flange tool around the outside. I've just sprayed a tiny bit of zinc on there, as when that panel goes on and these panels are sandwiched together, this area here might be prone to rust, so that should stop that. So I've just put the panel into position. I've started tacking it in. I thought I'd just show you guys what I'm trying to achieve. You can see now that this edge on the panel meets up with the edge on the roof just by putting little cuts in here and bringing both panels together. So all I need to do at this point is just finish welding this panel into position and then grind back the welds. So that's that panel installed on the roof on this side, and I was going to go ahead and start working on the underside panel, but what I'm going to do instead is I'm just going to pop this panel in the other side of the roof. So there you go, that's 2 skylights fitted to the roof of Project BedBug. And to be honest, with all things considered, these have actually gone in okay. And they will need a little bit of fettling with a hammer and dolly just to get them sitting a little bit nicer, just on the edges there. It's slightly bulbous. But I'm going to save that for the prep work on the roof, and I need to really get on with the underside panels now. So the customer has kindly supplied me with an interior panel for behind these skylights, and I would like to use some of these sections just to sort out the areas that are bad inside the car. And as I mentioned before, this area here has just been cut off with a gas axe or something like that. It's very moody. It has no structural integrity whatsoever. So I would like to use some of the other panel to kind of come round here and maybe stitch these sections together just to add a bit of strength. So if I can get some panel to fit here, it's going to make the headlining a bit easier. And I think they're not actually going to go for headlining. They're going to go for some kind of tidy looking board that's going to go across the roof here. So if I can have some kind of edge here that they can start trimming off, that'd be great as well. So I've got absolutely no idea how this panel is going to fit yet. So what I'm going to do is just cut the panel in half, grab one of these sections and offer it up into position. So what I've done up here is I've just trimmed off the rather moody rusting edge that was along there, just so I can bend it down. And with that bit out of the way, I can now offer in the new panel like this here. I have marked it there, there's a trim line. I do think it's a little bit too wide. So what I'm gonna do is start drilling the aperture here, just so I can plug weld this into position. So what I've just done is I've just clamped the inner panel there just to the outer panel, ready to plug weld this into position. And although the outer panel looks like it's in the correct position, on the inside it's a slightly different story. You can see there that there's gaps on these corners. And this is not uncommon when you have two different manufacturers manufacturing different panels. I mean, the tolerances are going to be good, but sometimes they're not great. But to be honest, I'm not really worried about that. When it comes to building cars like this, there is quite a bit of trial fitting, and what I'll have to do is trial fit the glass and the rubber seal before it goes into bodywork. And then if needed, areas like this can just be trimmed for a better fit. So that's the two inner panels welded into position. So what I was going to do at this point is continue this panel up to the back of this windscreen surround, and at the back edge here just continue it to the back of the cab area, but I'm not entirely sure what the customer wants to do with the roof lining or headlining boards yet, so I'm going to run this past him first before I continue with that. So I still need to put a little bit more work into the skylights, but the bulk of it is actually done now. And I'm actually pretty happy how this has come out. The panel isn't too bad. It's sitting quite flush, which means there's less filler work needed on this area of the roof. And also bringing up the roof panel to meet the skylight panels has actually given me a better shape in the back of these roof corners. So at this point, I'm really chuffed that those skylight panels went in the way they did. I thought in my head that there would be a little bit more of a nightmare, but just chopping it out and just chucking it in and seeing what sticks was really the option for this one. So that was another little bite done on the project BedBug, and I have still got oodles of work to get on with, and I'm not entirely sure what the next video is going to be yet. So I'm going to leave it there for today. Let me know in the comments, what do you think of the skylights fitted in the roof of Project BedBug? Personally, I think they're actually quite a nice addition. Thanks for watching as always, and I'll see you next time. Cheers! Oh, by the way, if you haven't subscribed, do that now. Thanks.